Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from. It is 1:11 Eastern Standard Time, and it is time for the awesome journey. I am your host, Kelly Steinica, along with my co-host in care, Christy Howard. And we are just two girls that connected on LinkedIn 15 years ago, live on opposite sides of the country, have giving hearts, a passion for paying it forward, and I may have prayed to live louder in my purpose, and now here we sit with microphones. And as most of you know, one of our main focuses to highlight incredible individuals to share their unique stories and challenges because we are all united in our unique journeys. And one of the other things that was really important to Christy and I when we were putting this together, and granted, we're ridiculous and we were like, we just want to help everybody. um, but one of the things we really did want to highlight, other than, stories that would inspire, encourage, give hope, those sorts of things, is also to bring on job seekers because Christy and I know the struggle is so real and wanted to help amplify people who are searching, struggling to share their experience because we know there's so many of you out there that are going through the same thing. And just hearing from someone else sometimes can make you go, God, thank God it's not just me. And to help inspire and have recruiters be like, hey, look at this person, they're looking, reach out to her and let her know what's happening. So our guest today is Ashleigh, and we're so glad to have her here and to give her some spotlight and share her shine today. She is an avid, how did you say it? I think champion for customer experience, and she's a cheerleader, and the pom-poms are optional. I loved that in your descriptor on your LinkedIn profile. So let's go ahead and get started. And before we do, I will turn it over to my co-host in care, Christy Howard.
Hello. Oh, I love Tuesdays. I love Tuesdays because we get some great, awesome journey stories. And as Kelly mentioned, we both know the pain about job seeking, and it's changed. It's changed within the last year. Hate to use the word, but it's a cluster. It's a cluster.
Amen.
I mean, I know somebody who just got hired from a job that they interviewed in November, and then they connected with them. So it's very frustrating. It's hard on the mental health, and Kelly and I are all about paying it forward. And if I could, I would help everybody. And I try. So Ashleigh, I'm so blessed that you're able to join us. I know that you've been unemployed for 4 months. In some people's eyes, that's a short time. In other people's time, that's a long time. So, but either way, being unemployed, it's a long time being unemployed and having to go through this hamster wheel of how I look at it, of what should I do? How should I do it? I'm hearing all these different views and advice from this person, that person. What do I do? Because we sit in our head because we just don't know. So, Ashleigh, tell me about your journey of the last, let's go 5 months.
Yeah.
Before you got laid off.
Sure. 5 months. So 5 months, my last month in my previous role, I was admittedly very focused on making sure that the team I was leaving had everything that they needed, that the customers I was transitioning over had everything that they needed. I have been through, in my entire career, I've been through lots of employee turnover, lots of, team turnover and such. And so I know how important it is to have that, that context and that historical knowledge somehow just put down on paper, communicated in a Zoom call, translated somehow to whoever the person is that's going to pick it up. Because sometimes you don't get that chance, right? Sometimes you come into a role, the person has already left, and you inherit an office, and you just look around, and you're like, I don't know what any of this means, but we're just going to figure it out. So that's what I spent the last month doing, and I was happy to do it, but I also was probably not doing myself enough service in really starting to ramp up my search. I think part of the reason why I was a little hesitant to really ramp up the search is because I just didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was feeling a little burnt out, maybe a lot of burnt out, and I just wasn't really sure. And I will say too that I had a lot of friends, colleagues, people who in 2022 changed jobs, and they were changing jobs. I mean, it was like they would apply for something, boom, 2 weeks later they had like, it was crazy how fast things were happening. So I kind of rested on that laurel a little bit. Again, not a thing I should have done. Hindsight's 2020, but it had always been, my experience that like it just has not taken this long. So I actually took some intentional time off once month 2, once I was like officially unemployed. I took 2 weeks where I literally did nothing job searching. I played video games, I read books, I cleaned out my closet. Like I stepped away from the keyboard for 2 weeks just to clear my mind and take a breather. And then started up the search, reached out to friends, reached out to former colleagues, started looking at positions, started getting my resume together. And I had always used LinkedIn specifically as a place to share things that the company I'm working for, what they're doing, projects I'm working on, that sort of thing, but never really using it for personal branding. Like it's become that now. So I had a learning curve. I had a lot to learn in a short amount of time, because suddenly I jumped back on LinkedIn. I'm like, whoa, we have LinkedIn influencers and we have top voice. I don't even know what this means. I felt like I was in a completely different planet than I, had been in a long time. So I really kind of just dug into the LinkedIn thing, started finding people that I liked their content. Maybe they were in a hiring manager role or a recruiter role, started following their advice and their information. And like so many of us, I discovered that there's a lot of information out there that's just not helpful. A lot of noise, so much noise. And, just like every employee is different, like anytime, a software engineer every software engineer is different, right? Mm-hmm. Every recruiter is different. Everybody has a different approach. And so you have one recruiter that says, don't waste your time on cover letters. It doesn't matter. And then 2 posts down, why aren't you writing cover letters? And it's like, I can't, there's already enough voices in my head, it's a lot of noise. So it's been tough. It's been tough to dig through the noise. It's been tough to figure out what to say. I am terrible at talking about myself in the sense of, here's my accomplishments. Here's, the things that I did. And writing about them, also not great at it. I'm like that person that doesn't keep track of their accomplishments until they leave a job and they're like, what did I actually do in that job? And then scrambling, trying to figure it out and write it down. So I picked up a couple of tools.
And I don't mean to interject there, but I find it too, we were sort of talking about that a little bit before, is writing about ourselves, and it's so difficult for anyone because we don't see ourselves the way the rest of the world does, for one. And 2, I do think it's an interesting exercise. And God, I learned this years ago from a business coach that I worked with. And I was running so fast. I'd moved across the country in a matter of 2 weeks to take a startup position. And I was nonstop. I was working 15-hour days, and all I was doing was going back to my corporate apartment and then coming back in the morning. And she finally was like, Kelly, you need to sit down and breathe, for one. And 2, I want you to sit and reflect on the last, and this had been after I'd been there for like 4 months. What have you accomplished in the last 6 months? And I was like, well, I don't know. And then she's like, no, homework, go take a look at it. Well, when I started doing it and getting seriously real with myself, I could not believe the list. And the purpose of the exercise and to continue to do that to yourself is always to have like a place that you stop and say, what have I accomplished? One, you're focusing on the positive, and 2, you will surprise yourself every single time and go like, holy crap, like I can't believe I did all that. And take a moment to bask, because it does help your mindset, especially I think when you're feeling in that place of, and I know, been there, done it, and I'm still doing it on an occasion, of feeling that downness of, God, why can't I get this dang interview? Because it used to be like, if I applied for it, well, I didn't even really have to apply. I was always trying to be poached. and when I was,
that's the dream, right? Somebody come to me.
Yes, you're wanted when you have a job. And so now, and when Christy started to say at the beginning, 4 months to some is such a short period of time. That's terrifying that that's a true story, but it is a true story. I know most people on average of late, at least that I've been personally talking to, they're like, "It took me 9 months to a year to get hired." And I was like, it's just so discouraging. So we need those moments to really look back and look at the positive, because that's when I think our self-doubt starts coming in. And again, I can speak for myself because I'll be like, well, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. That voice of
Yeah.
doubt starts to get louder because it keeps getting fed with rejection. And even this, it's the silent rejection. Like, man, I haven't heard from, I can put out 10 resumes and I maybe hear back from one. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the
Yes.
ratio of actual responses, but that plagues on you, which is such a difficult thing for people, which is another reason why we did want to do this and have an open conversation, because we know there's people sitting, on the fray that are just like, I don't know what to do, but man, I feel a little bit better knowing that I'm not alone. That we that
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yes.
No, no. It's also, the mental health is so important. Our mental health got destroyed during COVID.
Yeah.
And now, as you said last year, your friends could apply, boom, they get jobs, and then all of a sudden it's completely changed. Recruiters have been let go,
Mhm.
HRs have let go. Certain,
Mhm.
and so then they're very thin, and they're trying to keep their job, which I understand that. However, what happens is that we get in our head, we sit in our head, we
Mhm.
sit there and say, okay, this is a perfect job for me. I do, I connect with the person, I do all my due diligence, and I don't hear anything, or I do get a phone screen and I hear, I'm going to pass you on, you're perfect, and then I don't hear anything. Or better yet, you have that interview. The hiring manager's like, you are the person, we're going to send you an offer letter, and you don't hear anything from them.
Yeah.
So now they're sitting there going, well, they offered me a letter. No, until you get the paperwork, you don't know what's going on in the back end.
Yep.
You don't know if all of a sudden their budget got screwed up and they had to put it on hold, because the problem is there's no communication. So what
Right.
I share with people to, unfortunately, when you apply for a job, walk away from it. You're a business, they're a business. Continue to look for businesses to build your business. The right business is going to align with you. When you walk away with, okay, that was a great interview, they want to offer me. Yeah, but you know something? Got nothing on paper. Because unfortunately, there have been jobs out there that people have signed, um, offer letters, and then they reject it. So the more you think about it, that's why I always say to people, walk outside. Go.
Yeah.
You've got the time. You've got the time right now. You're not working for another.
Yeah.
You've got the time. Don't sit and stare at that freaking computer every single moment of the day, because
Right.
it's not going to change.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And what if you put your job in, an hour before over 2 hours later, it's not going to change. But you
Right.
have to take care of yourself, and you have to, you know, understand that this how these how these companies are working. I mean, I do feel for the recruiters that are out there, because they're pushing out
100%.
there are some good recruiters, and then there are some bad recruiters.
Yes.
They're pushing
Yes.
you through, and then they all of a sudden like, oh, by the way, the person's on hold. And then, hey, can you hold them off for a few months? No, they're trying. So there's no integrity, it seems. And so
Mhm.
you have to give yourself empathy and live in integrity, and just
Yeah.
make sure that you're healthy, because the right job will come along. I have numerous clients that have gotten jobs, and then a job they applied for months ago comes back, and I always say, just because you're in a company doesn't mean you can't have a conversation.
No.
Go
No.
interview, because you
That.
applied for
Why
it.
not?
So go interview, and many of them have turned around and said, "This is the job that I want. Now what?"
Yeah.
You leave.
Right.
Especially if it's a higher paid, you don't see yourself. Sometimes people are getting job descriptions that have nothing to do with what their job is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has to go back with the integrity. But so you turn around and say, hey, I appreciate the help. However, I'm a business. You're a business. I have to move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just don't burn the bridge. It just, but
Yeah.
it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's a mental game right now. It's a complete
Mhm.
mental game. And I feel for everybody looking for a job.
Yeah.
Um,
And the mental game portion too is you got to remember organizations don't care. Like they do
No.
not care. And that's nothing mean or anything negative against, it's just a fact. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
being strung along, I mean, and I was actually on two different organizations with this, where I was in their interview process, that the position was pushed off for like 3 months, then another 3 months. And then finally, after 7 months, one of them, 9 months for the other one, they were like, well, we decided we're not going to hire this position. And, it's kind of, it is
Thanks.
that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, thanks for that. That
Yeah.
felt great, but they don't care because that's not they're not sitting there going, you know what, Kelly Steinica might be crushed if we take this out of our budget. Like
Right.
that's just not the conversations they're having. So like exactly what Christy's saying, we've got to get it from community, reaching out to other people, having more conversations. And I say this so much, and I've been doing this so much more, and it's led me to other opportunities, excuse me, other opportunities because I've been having more calls with meaningful connections. I'm not looking for
Right.
numbers. I'm actually paying attention to who is connecting and what they're sending me. I don't want that, pitch slap right away in my inbox that they're trying to sell me something because then I'm like, oh, this was you're just trying to get a transaction. But get on those calls, talk to people. People are willing to have conversation. I can't think of one person in the last 6 months that I've been like, hey, do you want to jump on a quick call to see how we can help each other? If I think that there is, a synergy, no one says no because there's so
Yeah.
many people that are doing it. And I think the people, who do have work and maybe want to leave their current position and is having an issue because they're in a toxic situation or what have you, they also feel for people who are looking because they know it sucks. So
Yeah.
anyways, I think conversations like this are so important. And what do we have here, Christy? We should probably catch
I,
up on some comments
yeah,
here.
I got to catch up. I'll catch up in a second. But Greg does have a good question. How have you worked through the idea that there's one missing keyword or skill that is going to be a change? I need to get that dream job. No, there's no.
There
There's
isn't. It's this eats me alive. It truly is a thing. I have a Word doc where I literally have listed out like every bullet, every skill, for every job. And it is so stressful because, absolutely, you should be tailoring your resume to every single role. The role titles might be similar, the job descriptions might be similar, but there's always some like key things that, you want to show that you did your due diligence, right? That takes so much time. And I think that's the other thing too, Kelly, when you were saying that like companies don't care, they're not sitting there being like, oh, well, Kelly's going to be, I think that a lot of folks don't, unless you're in this situation, it is incredibly hard to wrap your brain around how much time it takes. It's not just here's a posting, I sent my resume, boom. Like you're not doing this in 5 minutes. I tracked it for one application and it took me almost an hour and a half because I had to go through my resume, go through the job description. I use tools like Teal. I know some folks struggle with it. I love Teal. I'll shout it from the rooftops. It has been a game changer for my job search, keeping me organized, helping me keep all my resumes one place. But it takes so much time and it's exhausting. And you, as the job seeker, you're putting in that effort of like, okay, I hope that I put in the right keywords. I hope I put in the right skills, included the right thing. I'm going to send it off. And you don't get that ROI on that investment. Like you feel like I've invested all this time to say to you, hey, company, I'm the person for you. And then you don't get that return on that investment. And then if you feel, people say like, can't take it personal. It's hard not to. I mean, it's true, you can't, but it's so hard not to when you put in all that time and effort to like show up as your best version of you and you get a rejection letter 2 days later that's like, thanks, but no thanks.
going
or you don't hear at all.
going back to redoing your resume, are you telling me that every time you have a new job, you completely redo your resume? Or you
Not
build, are you building? Are you taking those words and
building.
building onto your resume? So
Yes.
because of what you're looking for, it's just like marketing, an EA, I mean, a
Mhm.
B2B salesperson, we're just building on it. So I wanted to clarify this because a lot of people are completely redoing their
Oh
resume
gosh.
for
Oh gosh.
every single job
Right.
because this is what they think. They don't realize that you take each job and you build onto your resume because each job is going to make your resume stronger.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to clarify that because I do know that people actually do completely redo a resume for every job. And
Yeah, I do
that's
too. I'm like, that is insane. I couldn't. I
Yeah.
mean, just the pain and one of my biggest frustrations, or if I should say aggravations, is when it says, load your resume, upload your resume, because it takes from LinkedIn to another site. So you upload
Mhm.
your resume and then you have to create a login and then you log in and then you have to re-enter all of your information.
I hate those
Well,
things.
I mean, and then it's like 2 hours of your life sucked away, and again, it's that whole ROI. It's just a mental game, and it is
It
about,
is.
like, knowing when to get up and walk away. Like, when I'm sitting down and I'm going through resumes, searching jobs, doing things, I do set a timer on my phone now because I
Yeah.
have to get up and go do something.
Yeah.
That's
Whether
excellent.
it's just walk
Yeah.
around the pool in the backyard or whatever. I've got to move and clear or turn on some music for a few. I mean, you've got to clear your head because it does. And I'm an optimist I'll find the silver lining in anything. Um, but even I and Christy knows because I've called her and I'll be like, girl, I'm just feeling like shit today. Like I'm just
Oh
down
yeah.
and I'm in the funk and I can't shake it and you just need to talk through it and but that's another thing is be sure that you've got people, have your tribe. And if you don't have a tribe, God, reach out to someone. I mean, reach out to us. And we say this on every show, whether or not, because mental health is always in the background in some way with everything that everybody's going through. We're not here to be private. And I actually have had a few people that have reached out to me, and I'm grateful for that because I'm like, you know what? I'm just glad that I was there in that moment, and I hope it helped because sometimes that's all it is. So this whole thing is a struggle mental game because even if it is 4 months, that's 4 months without a paycheck.
Yeah.
And it used to be plan for a quarter to not have an income. Like that was like the
Right.
way that you planned. Um, that's not happening anymore. And there's people, I mean, have been off of work for a heck of a lot longer than that. And, you know, then we get into so many other facets of what goes on in the background. What would you say currently, Ashley, has been your biggest struggle, or what hurdles that and I say that in a way of to be able to share with the audience of what could maybe help them. Like, what was a short like,
Sure.
"Man, I really screwed that up," or even maybe like teal. I'm not familiar with teal. Um, but just some ways to help give other people shortcuts because of what you've learned during this 4 months.
Yeah. So teal from a tools perspective, I'm a big tools girl. Like I love if there's a
Yeah,
solution, a product that's gonna like do stuff for me and help me, give me back time, I'm in. Sold. Show me how to do it. The great
yeah,
thing about teal is that, like Christy was saying, you can put in all of your bullets. You can put in as many as you want for every single, job you've had, and then create, build your resume using those. But it's all in one platform, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
that's what
It's great, and we should definitely chat about it because I don't want to spend all the time talking about it. But from like a tools perspective, that has been a huge game changer just in keeping me organized. Also seeing like I can see how many jobs I've applied to, how many I've been rejected from, how many I'm interviewing. I can set goals. Like it's helpful just to visualize the data piece of it. But from the mental health piece, that is hard. It is. I think I used to say that I think everybody should have to work a retail job at least once in their lives or work in a restaurant because I feel like but listen, I feel like when, as a consumer, if you ever
Yeah,
work retail or work in the food service industry, you suddenly have a lot of empathy for the people working in that and treat them, the way that they should be treated.
Yes.
I'm now, and I say this, I don't wish this on anybody, but in a weird way, I am grateful for being unemployed because it has given me so much empathy about how terrible this process is and how awful. Even applying for unemployment, the training video, at least in North Carolina, the training video I had to watch essentially shamed me for doing it, and then told me how much I should be grateful for the businesses in North Carolina for, offering me this. And I'm like, I've been paying into unemployment for my entire life. What are you talking about? This is, but the process can feel so demeaning and feel so isolating. And if you have people in, I have groups of people, I kind of bucket people, right? I have my friends who I go to that I can just talk to about how much I'm frustrated, I'm, feeling low about myself, I need a distraction, whatever it is. I have the folks that I can go to who are also unemployed and I can just vent to, and they get it because they're living it too, and they just understand. And sometimes it's a level of empathy and understanding that, not everybody, thankfully, has been through, that can really sympathize with it. And then I have folks that I go to who I, try to just, I lean on them in the sense that, like, I look to ways to help them. I've actually found that one of the best things in this process with my mental health is actually asking people, what can I do for you? How can I be helpful to you? I find roles, or I see things pop up and I'll send it to somebody who's also in this journey. I'm like, this sounds like something you've been looking for, and we chat about it. Because I never know what if I come across something that can help somebody else, that makes me feel good. That helps. I was reading some article that basically said for every one negative interaction you have, it takes 5 positive to like balance it out. So imagine all those rejection emails. That's a lot of positive interactions you need to like get out of that tunnel. And that's hard. And sometimes reframing it, being like, you know what, today I'm going to spend my day doing LinkedIn recommendations. Like sometimes I just have fun finding old colleagues and going in and recommending them on LinkedIn. And then they send me a message and they're like, this is like the nicest thing in the world. I'm like, yeah, I mean, but like it's helpful,
good,
right? Yes.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the reasons, Kristen, I mean, I'll say this for myself. Is definitely one of the reasons that I do it, because it gives me something so positive to look forward to helping helping one person. Our goal was, and it's like, then job done. But it does help keep you going, because it's like, you know what, I'm not alone. And knowing that we're helping someone, it makes you feel better. And it's fascinating how, and I'm seeing this happen all over, which is actually a very beautiful thing, because society really is good. And there are a lot of good people, that people are reaching out and trying to help one another, and, meeting each other where they're at. You're not seeing, I will say, a lot of recruiters that I've connected with of late, and what we've all said, that there's good ones and there's not so good ones. And the mixed messaging, and I'm with you, Ashleigh, when you said that. I'm like, I can go down a feed and I'll be like, I literally just read the 180 of this advice.
Next to each other.
Yes. I mean, it's so confusing, but it's like, well, then who can reach out to you to get clarification? And I do have those people now, because I'm like, hey, because I trust you and I know what your background is. Here's what I'm struggling with. What do you know? And everybody's willing to help if you ask. And if they're not, move on. Like, that's the other part of it, and I think that's beautiful that you're doing that. So brava, because you're bringing light to other people. And when you do that, it does bring it back. And that's kind of, just think if everybody did that, how great this world would be.
So we've got a question here. And again, I apologize for not, I'm putting the comments in just because we like having our guests share their journey.
Yeah, no worries.
This one's a long one, so I'm going to read it off the other side. It is Ali. He's a marketing branding person. Oh. This is, good afternoon, ladies. I really appreciate you putting your precious time to help job seekers and professionals on journeys So can you tell me, like, how can we leverage our existing network or tap into new networks to uncover hidden job opportunities?
Okay, I
Well,
have
I've been,
some.
go ahead.
Go
Oh
ahead,
no, I
Ashley.
was gonna say I
Go
No,
ahead.
have
no, you
some.
go, girl.
So I have, except for one job, my entire career, and I've been working for 20 years. I know I don't look it, but I promise I have. I have gotten all of my jobs through a referral or a network, some sort of connection, right? Like I've applied, but I've also known somebody. So immediately I went to my network, but I realized that I went to my network and wasn't intentional. When I
Mm,
used to work in nonprofits, one of the biggest things, I did a lot of fundraising, had a lot of money I had to raise. And it feels sometimes weird to ask people for money. And I'd help people, craft their emails, right? They're sending out because they're trying to raise a certain goal to do a race or something like that. And the emails were like the ones they'd send me were always very passive. It was like, if you see anything, let me know. Okay, the problem with that is that doesn't that doesn't put any sort of pressure on the person receiving that message, right? You're assuming that they're going to be like thinking of you top of mind. It sounds terrible because they might be thinking of you, but like they're also thinking of 10,000 other things. So when it came time to reaching out to my network, specifically with this job search, what I did is I basically went through and said, here's what I do, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm looking for, here's how you can help me. And was very direct. It was like, let's, grab coffee or catch up on a Zoom call just because I like chatting with people. If you know anybody, I was very direct and like, here's the call to action. So that way, if
mhm.
somebody's looking at that post or that email or that text message or however I'm sending it, they can either look at it and be like, oh yeah, I can do this, or I don't have the time or space for it. And they can scroll on by and wish me good luck. And then I know that that person isn't the person that's going to help me. It's not, any fault of theirs. It's just they might not be in a position to. I just did this on Facebook. It was one of the most vulnerable things I've probably ever posted in social media. And I had over 80 comments and 30 shares on the post. I've had total strangers reach out to me. I actually had an interview yesterday from somebody who I had met through a bridal group. Her fiance works at this company, and he knew that they were like, I mean, the connections are crazy, but the number of total strangers in that mix who have like offered to help, have shared my post without me even asking. They just did it, and it has been mind-boggling. It's the hardest thing to ask for help. Like I feel like as humans, we don't want to do it because it makes us seem weak, but people want to help. They just need to know how to help you. Like, what is the thing that you need? And I think I honed a lot of that when I was planning my wedding. It was like, I just need to start, project managing this and like telling people what I need to do. But that was the thing, right? It was like, here's what I need. Can you do this? Yes, no, moving on. And it was a really easy way to help my network help me.
So
Yeah.
This
I
is
want
what I
to
need
I
right
want to
now.
go into what Allie about going, and as you said, sharing it, putting it out there, being
Yeah.
vulnerable. People can't help you if they don't know how to help you. Like
Right.
Yeah.
as you put it down, you told them what there, but also you never know who somebody knows who needs to know you.
That's right.
And that's where LinkedIn is. LinkedIn is the social network. I've been on it since 2008. Started it when it started getting a little bit leverage with my own business, my first business of referrals and just getting to know people. But because of that, my connections over the years are now global. I am all about, if somebody messages me because of what I do now,
Mhm.
I'll say, let me see, give me a company, let me see
Yeah.
who I know. And then you do an introduction.
Yeah.
It's just all you have to do is say, hey, you know, you, and you have to be vulnerable. And this is what
Mm,
Yes.
people,
that's the
as
tough
you
part.
keep on saying, people are afraid to ask for help
Mhm.
because we're afraid of disappointment. We're
Well, and
afraid that,
it's the silliness of, and I mean, granted, I'm horrible at it sometimes, and I know it about asking for help. Because somewhere in our minds, and I even think as women, we're caretakers. We're the ones that
Mhm.
do those things. And to reach out in some ways, like, I don't have my shit together. And
Right.
but it's okay to not have it together because you can't have it together all the time. And, Christy and I have talked about this, a couple episodes ago for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which we're like, it shouldn't be a month. It needs to be a regular conversation, for the same reason.
Be
It's
for
so,
women. It should be for
yeah,
everybody.
yes, for anyone to ask for help because it is that vulnerability. And one of the things that stands out to me with Chris Fields, who I'm referring, he was the one we had on for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, is he said he was astonished at how many, when he reached out for help, he was so surprised at how many hands reached back. And I just got chills saying that. But how many times have you heard someone in your life ask for help and be like, guys, I'm in the dumps and I just don't even know what to do. You go out of your way to do something because you're like, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. But then how is it that our brains, because it is, that we think when we're in that place, like, well, I don't want to ask because then I'm going to feel like an idiot and I feel weak and I feel like a burden. I mean, all of those I'm not good enough words start chiming in our brains. And I think right now, because there is so much rejection or being ghosted, whatever the situation, those voices are getting louder. And again, why we wanted to be doing this, because people, God, you're so not alone, and so many people are going through it. And if you can't ask by, send someone an email. I mean, send a text.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't even know what to say. I just know I need something. Sure. What can I mean, just have a conversation. Those things, again, because you would never turn anyone down of your friends or family who reached out and said anything like that. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm dropping everything to get on it.
Even a stranger, because we're on this
Yes.
this platform, and you and I, Kelly, we get messages from people we're not even connected to, but they see us on, Don, and Don's here. Thank you as always. His weekly, LinkedIn lives, and here, I mean, neither one of us can shout it loud enough to say we're here. I mean, that's what I do for a living. Just be here for people, because I know that whole feeling of, I'm not going to ask for help because I'm the strong one. Everybody comes to me for me to help them. However, I'm not allowed to ask for help because they won't know what to do, because I've been there. And so then you start understanding, going, you know something? I have to ask it a different way. I have to be clear on what I'm asking, because those of us who are the strong ones, when we just say, I need help, they're like, I don't know what to do because you're the strong one. If we say, hey, who do you know in this company? I need to find a job. This is my resume. Could you look at it? Could you tweak it? Could you just give me some, constructive criticism, and be open to that, but also get out of your box.
Yeah.
The problem is we sit in our box, and that box is our head. And we sit in our head that makes up all these stories that tell us that we're not worthy because we're not hearing from the recruiter. We're not getting we're getting a rejection letter. I look at it when I've gotten rejections, and I'm like, okay, you're lost. I mean, and then you have to look at it that way, because it's like, if they can't have a conversation with you, knowing that your resume matches everything, plus you've got more experience, then shame on them. And I get it. They only have so many people that they can do it. However, one conversation can change it. There are a lot of people that are dealing with ageism out there right now.
Amen.
And they're getting, you're overqualified. Well, yeah. Wouldn't you want somebody who's overqualified who will?
I need people out there to change that phrase. Like, I hate that phrase so much.
Or
I'm qualified. That's it.
You'll be bored.
Step over. I am.
Exactly. Or you'll be bored. I'm sorry. I applied when I'm overqualified. I applied for this.
I'm not going to be bored getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
You haven't even had a conversation with me why I wanted to apply for this job. Maybe I want to step down to where I was so I can do a mental health, work balance. And that is
the thing too that people are doing right now.
Sure.
Right? Is because
they're kind of dialing it back a little bit.
Yeah, that people are saying, you know what? Now that I've had time to take a step back, I don't want to go back to working 80-hour work weeks with this responsibility. I do want to come in.
Also, not the pay that these people are putting out. I mean, I'm an EA. I have 40 years experience, and the jobs out there, they want to pay an EA $20 an hour.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I'm a CEO. Really? You know, and it's just like, but the problem is they're going to hire somebody because these companies,
Mhm.
you know, they're realizing that they want to make their budgets
Mhm.
good. So
Yeah.
they're going to hire people that are going to have that revolving door.
When I
Right.
think there's
But
even
I'll
that
get off my
other
soapbox on ageism.
yeah, well, oh god, girl, you and I both, obviously, because we both started going at it right then. Um, irritates me so much, and especially when people say, "It doesn't exist." It's like, "Yes, it does." Just yes, it does.
It does.
Biases are there too. I mean, you can have somebody walk in and they'll be like, I don't like how they look. I don't care what their
Yeah.
experience is. I don't like how they look.
I literally had this happen, within the last 5 years, because it was when I was in Texas. No kidding, I was interviewing someone in a conference room, and, one of the other C-level executives texted me while I was in there and said, "Don't even consider hiring that person." Not kidding you. And I honestly thought it was a joke when I saw it, and I'm like, "I guess I really don't know her very well because this isn't funny." But I went to her office afterwards and I was like, "What the heck?" And she was like, "The owners will not allow it." And I was astonished, for so many reasons. So, I mean, it does happen because
It does.
corporations, whoever's running it, they have their own agenda and their own things that they're telling HR
Mhm.
people what to do. And HR people in some organizations make 0 decisions. They can say, "This is the candidate you should hire," but the CEO or whoever else was doing the culture interview or whatever they wanna call it, they're saying, "Oh, no, no, you're gonna hire this one." Um, so, I mean, there's just so many things, but, to kinda go back
I think we went down a rabbit hole on that one.
we did.
It's
I think
another
we
story.
hit a trigger, I am pretty sure. Pretty sure we
Believe me,
triggered.
I understand that, but the one thing is when you're interviewing, and I think actually you're you've worked
Can't
20
hear
years.
you.
You have to make sure that the culture fits you. So
Yes.
when you're walking in or waiting, see how long they wait to get online. Because you're a business, your time is valuable. But if you go
Mhm.
into the building, don't get on your phone. Look around, watch
Yeah,
everybody,
yeah.
see what's going on, be observant,
Yeah.
and then just see how they treat you as the interviewer. Because you have the power. You have that power because, again, as I keep on always saying, we're a business. Is this going to be a fit for me? Yes, I need a job. I need to make that mortgage. However,
Right.
on this long, don't go taking a job just to get a job for that paycheck because one, you'll be miserable. Now, if you like the job, and these are just my opinions, it means absolutely nothing. And it's like, yeah, this is a click. And another job that you applied for months ago come in, have that conversation.
Sure.
Because you might realize that job that you really thought you wanted, their culture is not going to fit you, or
Oh, yeah,
you
the
can
worst.
see that the job you're in
Mhm.
is better for your growth.
Mhm.
Right.
So it goes back to that you've got the power and you have the room to
Yeah.
really figure out what you want to be, where you want to be.
Mhm.
But understanding that your mental health is the most important. So, Ashley, you just went away for a while. How was that walking away from your
So I brought it with me, but I did not turn it on.
good?
Not once. It was in my bag. I had it handy in case I needed it. Um, but one thing that being unemployed has given me, like I'm like you, Kelly, I'm a glass half full girl, like try to find the silver linings and everything. It has given me the ability to be present that I haven't
Mm.
had in a very long time because I'm not sitting here wondering, does my customer need this? Have I finished this project? Did I forget? I'm not thinking about the 10,000 other things. I'm literally thinking about whatever I'm doing in the moment and getting away from my desk, out seeing friends, just being in a different space, it just was so refreshing. I didn't feel like I missed anything. I intentionally was like, I'm not going to check LinkedIn on my phone, not, I'll check my email in case I get, an email that's like, hey, we want to interview you. But other than that, I'm not, chasing anything. Like I was very intentional about it and set those boundaries. And it was exactly what I needed. And it's hard. It's hard. I've done it a couple of times the past 4 months. It's very hard to take that break because there's so much advice out there that tells you, you need to be the first applicant within 24 hours. So you see a job post and then you're like, well, I get a screen. I'm stressed out about getting on. It's like, this is already stressful enough.
That's right.
Checking something and adding a 24-hour window on it is just it's not helpful.
No, and you're just creating all that garbage anyways, because our brain creates this reality
Yes.
that is not reality. It doesn't even exist because you have no idea what the organization is thinking. Because certain positions, and I know this from my experience, we would block out like a quarter and be like, during this quarter, we want to begin interviewing to hire this position, but we want to take our time because I was at least mentored, and I always use this, is hire long, fire fast. Take your time to find the right fit for the position.
Right.
It doesn't mean to take forever, but I mean, take your time, not just because, oh, we have one person that checks all the boxes, let's hire them. It does have to come to culture. And then fire fast, more in the same, and I think, unfortunately, probably every single person has been in a situation where you're like, why is that jerk still here that is like the cancer of the organization? And they keep them. And because it demeans or it puts an air on one else of such darkness. Because, well, if he's not going to get, why do I care? Why am I even trying? I mean, it has such an adverse effect. And kind of one of the things I wanted to go back to a little bit was because of course this does plague on people's mental health and how they're feeling about themselves. Their confidence starts going down, all of those grand things. And when you go into an interview, an interviewer, they can tell when people are desperate. Like they smell the fear. Most of them, if they've done it enough, they know like this person is just here because they want to get their butt in a seat. Like they don't really want this position. And that can come across. Even if you were the perfect fit, they may not hire you because they'll feel that. And one of the things that you can also do, and I highly recommend, and especially for someone who's been out of the job market for a very long time, reach out to someone and say, hey, can you do a mock interview? I mean, I know there's even tools out there that you can do practice interviews, but doing that so you get comfortable, and not to do canned responses. You want them to be authentic, but just so that you're comfortable having that conversation sometimes helps you. And, do go in knowing something about the company. I know, again, as a hiring person, when people would throw in, because I always threw out some question that asked them to see if they did any type of due diligence on the company, because that shows eagerness. And I know sometimes right now, and I'm one of them, it's hard to be eager on an occasion because it's like, oh God, here we go again. Like, where's this one gonna go? But then you got to shake that crap off and go like, I'm gonna go in and kill it. Like, regardless of what they decide, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna feel good about what I do today. So anyways, the point is, do reach out to someone and practice that, because that is a difficult thing, especially if you're being in your head too much about things. And that is where truly any leadership coaching, confidence coaching, those all come in so handy. And, I loved interviewing people. That was one of my favorite things because I'm fascinated by body language, by how people respond, and human behavior is just fascinating to me. So I dug it.
What lights them up too, like what gets them excited. One thing that I have done that has been really helpful is I've actually gone to friends who do completely different jobs than I do, right? They're doctors or just in a totally different field and would not even begin to understand what my job is. And I send them, I'll go on ChatGPT and I'll be like, give me 10 questions that a, director of customer success would ask, and whatever it is, right? I send them the questions and I just say, just ask me these questions. And what ends up happening is we only get through like 2 or 3 of them, because whatever I'm telling them they get curious about it and they're like, well, wait, what about blah, blah, blah. And then we start talking about it
Perfect.
and going into it more deeply. And it reminds me that I know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I know what
Mhm.
I'm good at. I know what excites, and it like reignites that excitement, even if that friend isn't, in a space. Like, I have a girlfriend who's a nurse. There's no world, like, she is not the person that's going to help me find my next role specifically because she's a nurse. But once she now understands what I do, and when she talks to people, she can be like, she gives
Never
her
knows.
version of it. Right, exactly. And so, but it's also helpful because it reminds me, like, I do love this and I can reignite that spark. I just need to find somebody, to practice with, to get in the weeds with on it. And it's so helpful. It really does help. Like,
So Greg wants to know, can you talk a little bit more about setting aside blocks of time for your job search and times to not focus on the job search? Shut down.
Put it in your calendar.
Leave your
yep,
phone.
I do.
Walk
Yep.
I
away.
do too.
Absolutely.
You block the time on your calendar, and you, I mean, you have to be intentional about doing it, but put it on your calendar just like anything else. If I'm gonna be here at 1:11 on Tuesdays, I mean, it's on my calendar.
Right.
So I'm here. I do the same, and I tell you, and this is something I did get from a business coach years ago, saying that put in all your personal time, do those things,
Mhm.
and disconnecting. I go through periods of time, and I do try to do this at least once a month. And I have been good about it lately because I've been feeling kind of in a funk, is disconnecting for a day on the weekend. I'll be like, phone down. I mean, and I'm checked out.
Yeah.
Because I just need that time, whether it's I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, journal or do some writing. I like to do something that's maybe a little bit more creative, just to kind of clear out the garbage that you've picked up maybe during the week. And I find it that it's just so refreshing to be able to go, ah, because we're so, there's so much information coming at us all the time. And I mean, there's so much negativity, and which is another reason we wanted to do this. I'm like, man, the world needs more positivity launched out into it. And if we can do it, let's do
Yes.
it. But we need that for ourselves too. I mean, and it's different for everybody. This time of year in Arizona, I'm not going out hiking because it's a little bit toasty. Um, I do go for walks in the morning, but whatever it is for you, go do something, but put it on your calendar because you matter in your appointments. I mean, and you need to make an appointment for yourself. And I think that one of the things that Don Cohen, Hour of Empower, our man, that he always said is like, well, block a time on a Thursday to go out and get a cupcake to celebrate you. I
Mhm.
mean, whatever it
Yeah.
is. I mean, it makes such a difference in your day. If you think, I can't take that hour for myself, like if, and I split it off, maybe I'll have a half hour here, a half hour there, half or 15 minutes, whatever it is, you'll get more done because you come back refreshed. It's just kind of like hitting reset. It is for me anyways. I will say when I first started doing it back when, I almost felt uh not almost, I felt anxiety because I'm like, "Oh my god, the 15 minutes is gonna drive me batshit crazy because I could be doing so many things and I'm sitting here and I'm going, what if they're not doing that right? How many calls am I gonna have to return when I get back to my office?" And it's just like you'll get over that, and then after a while, it's like, this 15 minutes is gonna be 30 minutes now because it just helps reset, and I just feel that's so important to step away for a while and just, I mean, you've gotta do it. I mean, I
Well,
know I do, and I need to function
just
better.
to be with you, and out of your head. Stop swirling the crap that sits in our heads. And those who know me, those who have worked with me, know that they can send me a message, know that I'm here. But when they say certain things, all I do is get out of your head.
Mhm.
And that's sort of a trigger because they're like, "You're right." And it's not like I'm dissing them or anything. I'm
Oh,
very
no.
empathetic because I spent pretty much over 40 years in my head. I got some great stories that got up there. But they were never really positive. I mean,
Yeah.
it just wasn't positive.
Yeah.
So to walk away and literally just walk away because
Mhm.
that job isn't, if it's, my faith is very strong, just like Kelly's. I'm a true believer. If it's going to be, it's going to be. You can only do what you can do, and that's put your application in, connect with somebody. And I want to go back to, this is again another pivot. There was somebody that wanted, some people connect with people in the company because they want to talk to them, see if they have any connection to something, have a coffee chat, know more about the business. When you do that, make sure that that person's been there more than 9 months. Make sure that they have the experience to let you know what the department that you're looking for, because this person, unfortunately, is struggling with the mental health for the fact that the person's struggling, and this person connect with the person that wanted to talk to him, and the person, because I don't want to say he, she, we, or whatever, said, "Oh, I wasn't going to connect with you because your icons on your jobs, there were no icons." Well, everybody needs to know the only reason why people have icons on their LinkedIn is because the company is connected to LinkedIn. Not every company is connected to LinkedIn. I had to make a business page for Authentic Brand. We made a business page for Awesome Journey, but it's not. So this person tells the person that wanted to chat with him, saying, I didn't think you were a real person. However, they got on the phone and then sat there and dissed the person.
What?
Like, why would you do this to another human being?
No, why?
Company for 9 months.
Because they're miserable.
Exactly. So unfortunately, be strategic on who you reach out to. And yes, we're here to, reach out, but go and look at and if it's a stranger or whatever, go and look at what they do. If they're 15 years old, they're not going to talk to somebody my age about life.
Right.
If they started their career, they're not going to be able to help me with connections.
Right.
So there's a specific way of you're connecting for your network as well. And I mean, my heart broke when I heard this story.
That's terrible.
I mean, totally broke.
I want to call that person and give them a piece of my mind. Like, that is
I know.
that is just cruel.
But trust me, I said the word from the connection, but
I'm sure not. But to go on that, the other thing that people need to understand is so many people are unemployed, laid off, whatever. I mean, it's so common. And when you go to people's profiles, and I refer to myself as an accidental consultant because I didn't intend to become a consultant. I needed to make some money. And it kind of, it came to me and I just started down the path, but I didn't have a business plan put together. I didn't do it in the correct order. And I think a lot of people are that way. And a lot of people now, if you go to their pages, it says like they're the founder or the CEO of whatever. And it's like, are they though? Like, you need to understand that it's not, there are some facades. It doesn't make them bad people by any means, but just be more like intentional on your connections. And I think another good takeaway, if there is a job that you want and you see that one of your connections knows somebody that works there, and I've had people reach out to me with this, and I have no problem if I know the person doing an introduction. Hey, I saw this position at XYZ organization and I see you're connected to, Jan, the CEO. Would you mind sending a introduction? No, not at all. I mean, I'm not doing a recommendation on someone I don't know,
right?
But I have no problem doing a connection. Hey, here's if I'm at that level of what do you want to say, of knowing the person, because I do have connections and I'm like, yeah, I am connected to them, but I don't know them personally. So
that's where I'm different, because if I'm connected to somebody and somebody wants to be a connection, I'll go to the person connection, see who they are to remind me who they are, and I just do an email. We're connected. I'd like to introduce you to this person. But that's wrong with
that. Yeah.
I mean, with the whole point, like, use this platform. I mean, there are so many ways that it can help you. Because there's so many people now that I see that are just so vocal on wanting to help. If you need anything, reach out. There are so many lives that go on that have the same I don't want to say the same as us because, of course, I think ours is the best. It's awesome. Um, but there are other people out there that are also trying to help job seekers or recruiters. Reach out to more recruiters, connect with them. Um, so I guess, I know we're getting close here, Christy. Ashleigh, what would you like this on a wrap up?
I'm sorry. Hold on, you cut out for a second, Kelly. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say we're coming up on time, so I just kind of wanted to throw back to you, Ashleigh, to kind of do a little bit of a wrap up. What can anyone do to help you?
Oh gosh. That's so nice. I was not thinking about that. See, I'm not even thinking about like asking people for help. I'm just eager to, I'm looking to find the right culture fit, and I'm passionate and enthusiastic, and I'm obsessed with customer success and the customer experience. And if there is a role or even just somebody out there who is like, this is what I do, I'm also in that space and would love to chat with you about it, I would love to just connect. And also if people are interested in getting into that space, I made the pivot from the nonprofit space and I couldn't be happier. I'm always happy to talk about like my crazy jungle gym of a journey and how I got here, and also if folks are just feeling down about their job search, I hear you, and I'm also happy to just give you an open chat box to vent in. You can scream into the out into the cloud, and I promise I won't share it with anybody. So yeah,
Love that.
thank you so much for having me, you both. And to be clear, we met through a LinkedIn chat. I mean, this is a complete like connection just through that. So it's the power of community on LinkedIn is just incredible, and I'm just so grateful for both of you for all that you do for everyone.
But we're here to help. That's our hashtag on this awesome journey. I mean, and we're your cheerleaders.
Amen.
I'm excited for you because you have learned in a short time of what needs to you need to do for yourself. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that are still struggling, and we can't we can only help as many as we can help, but we don't know who to help if they don't ask.
Right. That's the biggest piece of advice I would give anybody listening or watching. Ask. I know it's hard. I know it's vulnerable. I know it feels icky and weird. Ask, be specific about what you need, and don't be afraid to share where you're at in your journey, because people are good and they do want to help, and we just need to know how.
Well, and I think also, sorry, Kelly, I know it's your turn, but I think also people are waking up and they are realizing it could be them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unless you have your own business, no job. No job is, forever.
No. Right. There is
it's not
no
going on your gravestone.
Yeah.
Right. Man.
Yeah. I mean, so a great conversation today. We are so grateful and blessed to have had you with us today, Ashleigh. And we will be sending out so many positive vibes for things to come back to you. And Andre, hi, thank you. And anyone, if you know anyone for Ashleigh and vice versa, please feel free to reach out. And anyone that is in the chat, connect with each other. You're all here for the same reason. We are looking for meaningful networking here on LinkedIn. That is the purpose. And until next Tuesday at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will see you then. Have a great day, everyone.